Do these sanctions that we've put in place between Germany, us and the Americans, do they make any difference at all?
Well, they'll make a difference. They'll make some increased difficulty in the Russians running their economy. But I think that we have to be very frank about the fact that there's a limit that can be achieved by sanctions in a country where you have a despot as leader who has never cared and is never likely to care about the implications and the impacts on ordinary Russians. It's not as though he's responsive as we are in a democratic society. And I think it's been quite clear for some time what his intentions are. I came across an article today that I wrote in the Daily Telegraph exactly 7 years to the day, saying that we would ultimately have to arm the Ukrainians if we intended to stop Russia. And while we might achieve some of our aims by sanctions, and clearly there is a plan, a well thought out plan to be escalatory in these sanctions, we also have to recognize that ultimately, if we want to guarantee the security of the people of Ukraine and their sovereignty and their rights under international law, either we will have to provide them with the means of defending themselves, or we'll have to come to a defense pact with them. That is how you deal with aggressors like Putin. As President Biden was saying there is no threat from Ukraine. There is no justification for this action, and there can be no excuses. It is a blatant act of aggression. And sooner or later, we have to stand up to that, and we have to say, we may be able to do a lot of things by sanctions. We may dissuade Russia. But anyone who heard President Putin the other night realizes this is a man on a mission to start recovering the empire that was lost under the breakup of the Soviet Union.
Liam, I completely understand that, and I get what you're saying. However, if the people living in Donetsk and Luhansk, if they overwhelmingly want to be part of Russia and not be part of Ukraine, it's not for us to stand in their way, is it?
Well, Ukraine voted, if you remember, to be an independent nation as a single sovereign entity. And it's not for President Putin to determine what the future of those people may be. And this is one of the problems we have with Putin. He's got two reasons, I think, for not being able to qualify as a civilized member of the international community. The first is that he believes that the protection of ethnic Russians is the premise of the Kremlin, not the societies in which they live, their constitutions or their legal systems. That, of course, is unacceptable to us in terms of the concept of self-determination. And he still maintains this old KGB, remember he's an old KGB officer, the KGB view that Russia has a sphere of influence, or as they see it, a near abroad, in other words, that they should have a veto over the economic, political and foreign policy of their immediate geographic neighbours. That again drives a coach and horses through our idea of international law. And this is really what it boils down to, Nigel. It's, do we believe in international law or not? Do we want to live in a world where might is right, as Boris Johnson said today, or do we actually want to have rules governing us? And sooner or later, it always boils down to this point where we have to make a decision whether we want to stand up for those values or let them to be trampled by a despot.